Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Writer Podcast by Alexa, and that's me. Today we are going to talk about intentional discovery writing, and this is especially for like planters, even pantsers, kinda. Yeah, but I mean plotters are welcome too. But yeah, maybe you wanna try discovery writing or like planting. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone is welcome. Anyway, first of all my information is in the episode description down below once again. Uh, so check it out. You can join my mailing list and get, 90 questions to get to know your characters and, the emotions show don't tell guide and all that. You can find all that when you join my mailing list. You can get all that when you join my mailing list. But anyway, so intentional discovery writing. I don't even know if this is a real, like, does anyone talk about intentional discovery writing? I haven't heard of it. This is just something I started thinking about, like randomly on a weird autumn night. I believe it was like in the middle of the night when I started thinking about this. So yeah, but let me explain. This makes sense. Intentional discovery writing, what I mean by that is like knowing what you want to show and tell with your story and in your story. What you want your reader to get from your story, basically. Uh, and what I'm talking about is like kind of like the main plot and the subplot, and obviously kind of the themes too, but especially like the plot of the like novel or short story, whatever you are writing. Um, Obviously not poetry though. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't really write poetry. I've kind of tried it, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try it more at some point. But anyway, so intentional discovery writing. What I mean by that is that you know where you are going with the story. Basically, you know what the point of your the main plot is, what the point of all your subplots are, and I think a full length novel should have subplots and main plots, and also subplots can be like there can be a major subplot and then like this like kind of like smaller one. So just figure out what you want to tell and what you want to show your reader with your story. And I know it can be hard to think about if it's your first novel and you've never like shared anything, published anything. It can be hard to think about your like reader, but at least when you are editing, developmental editing, when you're at that stage, you should definitely start thinking about your ideal reader, and you should figure out who is your ideal reader, like who is your target audience. Target audience is kind of like it's marketing terms, and I sometimes use those because I'm about to um, graduate as a BBA in marketing, so yeah, I'm sorry if I sometimes use those terms, but like basically your ideal reader, like what? Okay, your ideal reader should be this like it's called a buyer persona, um, and it's kind of like this one person who represents your target audience. If that makes any sense to you, I hope it does. That's like simplified of what is your ideal reader. So yeah, think about that, and then you can do intentional discovery writing. Um, and this especially works for me, for example, when I'm writing my sequel, because I already have an idea of like who is my like ideal reader, because I published the first book. Well, actually, uh, the publish like the release date isn't just yet, but it's on pre-order already, and there's some other readers who have already read it, and yeah, it's exciting. But I'm not gonna talk about that. Now we are going to talk about intentional discovery writing. Or now we are talking about intentional discovery writing. So what I mean, but what I mean by intentional is like have an idea, like what is your goal? Think about these things. Like give yourself actually time to think about these things, and like wonder like what are you saying with this story? Who is it for? Uh, what maybe the themes And what does the main plot or the subplots, what do they tell about those themes and the things that you want to say with your story? If it's your first draft and you are, doing intentional discovery writing, but then you should know your ideal reader, so you know where you're going. You should also by then, if you are going to intentionally like do this intentional discovery writing thing, you have to have an idea of where you want to go with your story. Who are you writing it for? What are the themes? You don't have to have a plan. So, it's kind of like planting, not quite pantsing, but also not plotting. Although, as I always say, I love to have the beginning and the ending, and usually the middle to like figure out before I start writing, because that way you like it's so much easier to finish that way. But I actually talked about that in a past episode. I just can't remember which one. If I remember, I'll add it in the episode description. But at the very least, there's a lot of other information in this episode description, so check it out. But anyway, so what the point of this is, like the intentional discovery writing is, you should figure out your goals, your stories, themes, your you know figure all that out. Your ideal reader, who are you writing for? Uh, and I know it may be intimidating if it's your very first, novel that you are planning to publish, and you haven't published anything in the past. And yeah, it might be intimidating to start with intentional discovery writing. But at that point, maybe you should just try what works for you. You can think about intentional discovery writing later on when you're further along with your career. And I think, actually, for example, intentional discovery writing works the best for me, at least with my sequel, which is going to be the second book that I'm going to publish. So, yeah, do what works for you. Just intentional discovery writing is, having you know where you're going with the story, but you don't have to know the story. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because basically it's just kind of like, well, I think it's kind of like planting, honestly. I think that's what describes it the best. You know where you're going. You don't know how you get there, but you know where you're going. And that's going to make your developmental editing stages so much easier. So, like, the point of this is to make your process easier. And especially if it's your second book, sequel, or anything, try this. Like, think about this. Think about your goals and everything before you start with your first draft. Or perhaps if you're rewriting, you could do the intentional discovery writing there. And kind of, then you definitely have an idea where your story is going. But you may not. There may still be like holes, even plot holes and, stuff. So yeah, figure out how this works with your process, your writing process. And yeah, I definitely, recommend trying it. It works for me. And I'm sharing this in hopes that it will work for you too. But anyway, that's enough about intentional discovery writing. Thank you so much for listening or watching. If I ever say thank you for watching, it means that this is also on YouTube. If I ever said thank you for listening, it means that this is also as just audio. If you didn't know. So, I sometimes just say thank you for watching, and then I remember, oh yeah, I don't think anyone was watching anything on Spotify. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Well, every one of you is listening for sure. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope I see you in the next episode. Happy writing. Goodbye, creatives.